Okay, so with the practice of the charcoal, we are going to begin first with the value scale. So you will need a ruler, and some people like to draw in pencil. I try really hard to draw charcoal because if you push too hard with the graphite, you can always see that pencil line through the charcoal. It's part of why when we go to do a charcoal drawing next week, we'll draw with the vine charcoal, because the vine charcoal you can draw with super light. It's super erasable, an eraser, so it's very temporary, and we'll never see like a pencil line through the graphite, or through the charcoal. So we're gonna start with the value scale here for practice. So I'm just gonna take a ruler, do eight values. So I'm going to all I'm gonna do just with the charcoal pencil, I'm going to just go around my ruler. And I'm going to make a mark every inch. So we're going to do 1 inch boxes, 8 of them. Okay. I find it easier to work from the dark side to the light side, and you'll have to decide what feels more comfortable to you. Obviously, the charcoal stick or the charcoal pencil, they're essentially the same. One of them might just be more comfortable to you. I find the pencils to be a little scratchy, and they can make a little squeaky noise as you shade with them, so I sort of prefer the little sticks. They're the same. A lot of times, or when we actually do a drawing next week, or even when we move on to some of these other more detailed charcoal things, you'll have to switch to the pencil because you can get a little bit more detail with the pencil, obviously, than you can with the stick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the darker end of my value scale, and I am just using black right now, right? Because I need a really dark square. As I move, I'm going to color a little lighter and let some of the pencil or some of the paper show through. I'm basically right now pretending that I don't have white charcoal. I just need to make this the same way as we would make a value scale with pencil. You'll notice that we're working on gray paper. Traditionally, charcoal gets done on a toned sheet of paper, so a colored sheet versus a white sheet of paper. That allows for this kind of the white color to pop a little bit more. Obviously, if we were working with charcoal on a white sheet of paper, we wouldn't need white at all. Because the charcoal is a bigger particle size, we do get a little bit of blendability with the charcoal that we don't have with the graphite. Although, I'm going to show you, it is best, even though we do have the capability to blend, that you just let the material itself do the blending instead of using any other object, like your finger or a tissue, to blend. So you can see I'm just working my way. It's pressure sensitive, the same as a pencil. Lighter, lighter, lighter. And then once I get way down here, I'm just gonna put a really light coat that I'll have to adjust. Okay, so you see I have a reasonable value scale just with the black. Now I'm gonna switch, and where have you been? After? Okay. So now I'm going to switch, and I'm going to the white side, and you'll see that it blends and makes gray. So I have my white. I am going to, this one should be just the plain white. I'm not going to color the idea. And then as I work my way down, the white is going to blend with the little bit of black that I've already put on the square. And I'm not going to have clean white. I'm going to have a really, really light without any blending, without any fingers, you can see, ta-da, I have really light gray instead of really white. I'm going to be able to do that now for all of the rest of these. So you can kind of shade, that's why, like I said, it's like shading in opposite directions. So I shaded black this way, and now I'm gonna shade white this way, and it's just all gonna mix together to make the different grays. Now, one thing that can happen, if I decide, oh shoot, those are pretty much exactly the same, then I can come back and add a little bit more of the black in so that this gets a little darker than the one before, because remember, when we're making a value scale, we want to make sure that they change from one to the next. So you can have to sort of adjust a little bit by adding in a little bit more black or a little bit more white. It's a little bit more like working in colored pencils because we're working in the layers, okay? So I would just continue to work this way, kind of back and forth. This one's gonna have to be adjusted too, so that it gets a little darker. I'm sure you guys get generally the idea, yep, of finishing this so that they're all in a row. And I'll keep working on it up here, but I'll move on to the next thing. Next, after you do the value scale, the next thing is to replicate this image on your sheet of paper as closely as possible. So you can find something to trace. I should have some circle tracers at the back of the classroom. That one's kind of big. Let's see. I wonder what I have. I'm just gonna, I'll wing it. You have a ruler, so you can go ahead and use your ruler to make a square. And give me this line across. And when I'm shading an object, I'm going to the same way as I did my value scale. So I'm going to start dark, and I'm going to work my way lighter. And again, it's whatever material feels. I'm going to start, I like the sticks for laying in some of the bigger value, and I'll end up having to go back because of the, you know, the edges with the pencil to kind of make some of those edges more distinct. So I'm going to do this, like I said, same thing as I did before. Just now we're working on an object. So I'm going to try to shade so that it matches the form of the shape that I'm working with. So I'm a curve because I'm shading a sphere. And I'm just gonna work to try to make these values match as close as possible. And mostly what I'm working on is like my technique with the charcoal. Getting nice smooth value and working on the blending. Find that what else you're working on is this transition, that nice crisp edge of black right next to the white. So this is where the pencil can come in handy. I'm going to be able to kind of make that a nice sharp line there. But you can hear that's a little, maybe you can, maybe you can't. So they can be a little squeaky. So I'm just gonna do a little part there so you can kind of see that transition from one to the next. So like I said, I'm always just pretending that I only have the one color to work with. So it would be reasonably shaded looking without another color. And now I'm gonna come back with my white. I'm gonna do the opposite. Just gonna try to do one section so you guys can kind of see. So you can see I've got that nice contrast now between the black and the white, and I'll do the same thing here on the sphere. Being careful not to overlap my white when I get to that edge. A little more gray down here. because those will blend together if I overlap, right? As soon as the one is kind of overlapping on the other, I'm going to get that blending effect. So just like with graphite or colored pencils, if I scribble or rush, I'm going to leave those marks in my drawing. I want to make sure that you're trying to work smooth or work distinctly rough, right? If I want a hatch effect, I need to make sure that that's all over the place, not just looking like I was rushing in an area. But you guys can see that this is how, and I'll have to keep working on those values, but I think you kind of get the idea. Yeah. From here, and like I said, if you guys have figured, you may not get to this today, or you might get started on this today and have to finish it. From here, the next step is to copy these two out here on your sheet. Okay, so you'll need to make, let's see, your squares will be 4 inches wide, or your rectangles, I should say. They'll be able to be 4 inches by like 4 inches or 4.5 inches. They're almost square. So you'll have to use a ruler, and then I'll throw out now on this to do 2 of them at 4 inches. What this does is help you practice control. So every layer of this needs to be copied exactly on the paper, okay? If you have time, if I'm somebody who's already done with my figure drawing, I'm gonna turn it in. I'll probably finish this top section today in class. And then if I have time tomorrow, I can do all 4 of these, all right? I want everybody to do the top 2 for sure. Practice that contrast and control that we need to be able to make a drawing using charcoal, because charcoal is, it is messy. It does move. It doesn't stay on your paper the way pencil does. You can see my hands are a disaster from doing this today. If I take my hand and smear across this all blurs together and it's all over my hands, okay? So you do have to be kind of neat, and you have to be kind of thinking ahead while you're working in charcoal so that you don't make everything be a blurry mess. Also find that it's super handy to have just a piece of scratch paper so that you can have it under your hand as you're working, so that you're not smearing your drawing as you're working with it, because like I said, it is messy, 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 okay? Once you're ready for this, all of the materials are